All right, sound check. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, it looks like we're coming up and still no video. There it is. All right. Looks like we're all good. So my name is Jared. This is Engineering the Markets. It is April 20th, 2021. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So yesterday we had our first down day in the SPY. And I say this with the understanding that we have had red days in the past, but none of those days have been necessarily strong to the downside. A lot of sector rotation and a lot of just push and pull 2020 market with not any amount of technical level breakdown or any sort of rejection of price. We had this sort of false look here on April 14th, and then the market did eventually push a little bit higher. We were noting yesterday, and due to the fact that the futures market opened lower on Sunday, that the market was putting in the potential for some sort of evening star, basically like a final push and then the eventual pullback look and feel. And we did eventually get that in yesterday's session. So if you were active in yesterday's session, you would have noticed that a lot of sectors were down at the same time, most notably technology and consumer discretionary, some of our big sectors with things like Amazon, Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, Visa, the big names that have carried us forward over the past couple of weeks. Those sectors being down, and also down notably about 1% in each sector, indicated that the market was doing that healthy pullback. And we will see how far this continues as the market is opening slightly lower this morning. Where we sit on the daily, we do have this zone of resistance. We've drawn this out based on the 4-hour with our multiple levels of resistance in the past. And while we did push slightly above, we have now rejected and fallen back through. So ultimately, we did not hold this level on a back test, and therefore we will be looking for deeper support zones to see if the market will respect those levels on the way back down. On the daily, and even more clearly on the 4-hour chart, I've gone ahead and marked a couple of areas of interest for us to keep in mind. We have the previous all-time high, which prior to the breakout was sitting at about 398.12. So I have that marked here. We also have this 405 to 407 zone, and the market was putting in multiple days of consolidation in this zone, which means we want to see, whenever the market gets to that price, what is the amount of respect whenever we hit the top of that range. Typically, if you can put in that amount of consolidation, it means a lot of balance was formed in the market. And we will see, once again, buyers and sellers choosing whether that zone of balance needs to be respected if we were to back test it on the way down. On the 4-hour chart, excuse me, a little bit of a cough this morning. On the 4-hour chart, we do see that the 50 is acting as a temporary level of support. We did lose the 20, and the 20 has been well respected in the past. We've been trending along the 20 for multiple sessions, and then we're starting to lose the 20 in the pre-market session currently. So now we're just looking at the next zone, the 50. Obviously, good shorting opportunity against the trend in yesterday and Friday's session, but you would need to be essentially putting on some risk at those elevated levels and allowing the market to sort of fall against your position as we were in a strong uptrend. 30-day 1 hour chart. Let's look at our volume profile. And we see that the market is once again elevated. We've known this for quite a while. You can also see that on the volume profile, this first level that I've gone ahead and marked at, we'll call it 407, which is about the top of the range. It correlates with this shelf of value sitting right around here. The reason I've marked that is because as we are falling through, these smaller shelves are going to be consolidated on the way down, and it is likely for some of these to react in the intraday sessions. But the largest shelf of value that we have in this elevated zone is at this 405 to 407 range, which means if you're treating this elevated range similar to the lower range, which is your VA high, VA low, and VPOC area, you want to look for where VPOC is in the elevated range. And you kind of treat it in the same respect, where you were elevated for a period of time, you were testing the high, you're coming back down, so now you're looking for the largest value zone to test, which would be VPOC in the elevated range. And then once we get here, if we fall through, we have our pocket that we know there's very little support in this zone. We would fall through, test VA high, and then eventually come back to VPOC if we were to sell off that hard. So the logic remains the same, even if you're not in the VA high to VA low range. You still have a price level that has acted as balance over the past, X number of sessions. And that needs to be treated like VPOC on the way back down. It's sort of a gravitational zone for the market to consider if we were to reject higher prices. We want to come back to balance and come back to value, albeit this one has to be tested first before we get to the true value zone of VPOC, which is 394. So a little bit of I would say more, not necessarily advanced usage of this indicator, but this is how you treat these shelves of value when you're elevated or depressed from the VA high and VA low. You have to use closer price levels and shelves of value that are not VPOC. And that reigns true for the 30-day as well. You'll see that 411 is our VPOC in this very short time frame. So from high to low, we are targeting VPOC for this first move. We would expect some reaction here at VPOC, maybe to come and back test this higher shelf sitting around 415. The market did spend a lot of time at 415 in yesterday's session. There's a lot of balance and consolidation done here. And you can see that as we're starting to lose that anyone who defined risk here, especially anyone long defining risk here, is starting to get stopped out, especially if you're in the shorter term time frames. And we're just now coming to a deeper zone of value, which the market did hold in the past. So there's some correlation here with what sort of market participants are actually in the market in these past couple sessions. Most would argue that because we were extended, it's typically more momentum and shorter term time frame participants. And then whenever things get too far, too fast, you will see things like volatility rise. You will see things like momentum traders stopping out really quickly as the market pulls back into stronger value. And that's where you'll get your key players, your big money type players, actually putting on risk and defining their risk and their portfolios. So overall, market is doing what it should be doing. This pullback is healthy. And so far, there are no necessarily fear-based warning signals, but we do have elevated volatility in yesterday's session, which we'll show in just a moment. Looking at our Qs, load up our 20, 50, and 200. Qs notably did not get back above their daily uptrend. I think I've shown this enough, but this is from our COVID lows to our election lows. We did use this as resistance. Market spent a couple days sitting up here, not moving necessarily, but also not getting much higher. And now we are starting to see the pull down from this area. Obviously, dailies looking healthy overall, 20, 50, 200, all stacked and moving up. 4-hour time frame, we saw this rejection here once at this daily trend line. We saw it pull back up and retested, and a secondary rejection. So this is one of the reasons why I like this slanted support and slanted resistance. It's not always necessarily respected, but when you see reactions at these price points, you know that they are in some way being respected, and they can often be just a general signpost when you don't have key levels, especially horizontal levels, to use. So when you're at all-time highs, it can be sort of a helpful guide to indicate this is probably where some profit taking would occur, and we would expect a little bit of a drawdown from here before going higher. So we are seeing that. We see the reaction here in pre-market. The Qs are trying to hold on to yesterday's low, it looks like. In pre-market, we haven't closed below yesterday's low. So we'll see if maybe technology kind of consolidates more today as opposed to being one of the laggard sectors. Yesterday, some notable weakness in semiconductors. I just wanted to indicate that as well. We don't often look at semiconductors in this session, but outside of big tech, XLK, Apple, Microsoft, etc., semiconductors were a notable weak area of the market. And we'll look at that through the lens point of maybe an ETF in just a moment. 30-day, 1 hour. Let's look at our volume profile. As we remain elevated and above the VA high, our large shelf sits around 331. And this is where the market consolidated, similar to the SPY. We had a couple days of tight range consolidation before a breakout. So market was balanced here, and then the imbalance occurred through the range expansion that we got on this latest move. We do have this 335 shelf as well. I would say this needs to be dealt with first. This may be sort of an intraday play. If we land into this high interest value zone, we may see some nice inflection or at least some oscillations throughout the market. But a loss of this area, once again, we have a pocket below. I wouldn't necessarily look for longs in this area until we get down to the next shelf. And then obviously a loss of this would lead us into a larger pocket. Don't want to necessarily look for longs here based on this indicator until we get down to our VA high, and most notably 325. If you recall from multiple weeks ago, 325 is this breakout area. This is the top of this lower range, very volatile area in the Qs. And a back test of this still would be facilitative of low to high back test of the top end of the range and then looking for higher prices. So, structure here is still very strong. We're just trying to see if there's going to be some intraday plays as we start to sell off, as we start to pull back. Obviously, we don't want to wait until 325 to necessarily look for the next opportunity. We want to take advantage of shorter time frames as well. And on the 10-day, 30-minute, the volume profile actually looks a little different than the SPY. Whereas the SPY is coming into VPOC over the past 10 days, the most value has been placed above us. So this move away from VPOC over the past 10 days is actually indicative of coming to test this VA low at about 334.7. You can see some of the structure here. We don't have a lot of value where we currently sit in pre-market. We have our shelf at 336. I would say, once again, intraday only sort of structure, maybe looking for a sort of inflection at this point. And then our VA low, this would be a zone of support we'd want the market to maybe consolidate here, form a base, and then look for intraday higher prices after we get to this price. So different forces in play right now. The daily is extended. It is starting to pull back and consolidate. We have zones of support below us, and we want to see, will the market sort of line up at the same time, maybe SPY and Qs all at a support zone at the same time? And if doing so, can they provide sort of an intraday or multi-day swing opportunity back up to value? And the idea, once again, is that markets like to be in balance. Past 10 days, balance is sitting rather high on the Qs. So we're seeing a move away from balance, and that leads to sharp trends and sharp sell-offs or sharp moves higher. So the trend analysis here is that the move from value leads to the next area of value. Markets constantly in search of value. All right, and then our IWM, we'll just go over this quickly as I'm looking at the time. I do have a couple of other topics. IWM still remains sort of a laggard overall. We have not seen a push away from this zone around 220. We'll see that that is still VPOC on some of our higher time frames. This bull flag has broken bullish, but there's been no follow through. So we are at risk of stopping out of the structure of the bull flag. You should be defining your risk of this structure on a breakdown of this key low, which would be around 218.83. So your stop loss on the structure is somewhere in this zone, and we are at risk of potentially falling through this area at this time. But daily overall, still in a decent consolidation period. We simply have not seen the same behavior in IWM as we've seen in the other index products. 4 hour, very sloppy price action. Moving averages are back and forth. There's not a clear trend, and there's obviously some loss of some consolidation that was put in on the breakout. So that is a warning sign that this may not be facilitative of an upside move. We're also losing some recent support levels put in pre-market. We have not closed below this area yet, but it's basically at risk at this point. We can see that things are not really shaping up in the same way as they did in the SPY and the Qs. 30-day 1 hour. Let's look at our volume profile, VPOC. We talk about how hard it is to move away from balance. When you're looking for some sort of range expansion move, momentum in one direction, you want to see a move away from a large balance zone to a low balance zone, something with not a lot of support or resistance that's going to stand in your way. And so far, IWM has put in the potential for that move, but we continue to fall back to VPOC. So this one's kind of an interesting counter example of when this sort of analysis does not work in our favor. Ultimately, we still have a structure to define our risk against, but the analysis here is that VPOC remains where this market wants to be. And so far, we just have seen little to no momentum in either direction. And that should be also true on the shortest time frame. VPOC is pretty much exactly at the same price. We are testing the VA low on the short time frame. So intraday, maybe a slight move to VPOC. You sort of play VA low to VPOC, VA high to VPOC, and vice versa. You play this range back and forth until the range breaks. And then you look for some sort of expansion of range. So overall, markets are somewhat indecisive in the IWM. We have SPY and Qs notably pulling back. We want to see how far they will come, and we will look to see whether or not there are reactions inside of some of these key levels that we've marked on the daily. I think this is kind of Yet to be seen how far down we need to go, and also how we're coming down. Are we coming down with a lot of sharp selling sessions, or are we coming down in a more orderly pattern, nice up and down wave structure, and then landing at support, curling, and then making the higher move? We will of course see what the price action looks like. So in yesterday's session, I think some key aspects that kept me on guard for looking for longs amidst multiple weeks of basically all long, all day kind of structure in the SPY is we did have elevated volatility in the morning session. So amidst a VIX that has been selling off for quite a long period of time, we did see an elevated VIX in Monday's session. And you can see that that's actually still true as we are opening today. Remove these studies just to get some lines off. So we have an elevated VIX. Volatility is showing that there is some hedging activity in shorter term volatility futures, and also just hedging inside of the SPY and the SPX options itself. So this elevation shows, people are starting to look at where we are in the markets and seeing some downside risk. We did have the dollar form a very bearish breakdown and losing a lot of some intermediary levels inside of the larger ranges. Notably, the market did sell off yesterday on a weak dollar. So that is maybe indicative of not only some fear inside of the US dollar itself, but also in the equity markets. I'm basically looking at this as just a lack of correlation at this point, but it is notable the amount of selling that was in the dollar. It is one of the larger range candles that we've seen in quite a while. And most notably, it was done at a support zone. So if I see a large candle like that at a resistance point, something that is expected to reject, obviously I would look for that, move to be facilitated to the downside. If I see it at a support zone, it means that this is no longer a true area of support, and this market may be looking for even lower prices. So now I'm kind of taking this off my chart. It's showing that that level has broken and we've closed below it. And I would be looking for maybe some sort of horizontal support zone, something that has been well respected in the past is like the final spot to even consider. So I'm maybe targeting somewhere in the 90.25s to 90.50 range. Gold and silver, notable areas of support formed in both gold and silver. We saw the breakout of the range over the past couple of days. But once again, on that weak dollar and on the selling in the dollar, gold and silver didn't really react that strongly. So keeping an eye on this. Definitely don't want to be late to the party on the move. So defining some risk down here has made a lot of sense in the short term. And now we're going to see, how much upside do we have before things either shift back to more of a bearish sentiment or more of a consolidation pattern. And given that it is Tuesday, I want to take a quick look at a couple of sectors from yesterday's session. Still look for some opportunities as this market is consolidating to the downside. We've talked about, let me get this filtered by market cap, ordered by market cap. Okay, so we've talked about technology being one of our weaker sectors yesterday. Notable pull down from all-time highs, but overall still structurally very strong. First area to consider is going to be the recent all-time high. A pull down to this area could lead to a very simple sort of multi-day or even single-day bounce. But obviously a loss of that, we would start to fill this gap. And that gap fill is structurally something that I don't want to necessarily build along into until we finish filling the gap. So we have this zone that is lined up pretty well with all-time highs. Pulling down into here can lead to a bounce. Pulling down deeper can lead to a gap fill, once again also leading into a bounce. So at this point, it's just a zone of interest as we start to sell off. Financials holding at all-time highs. Not much selling going on here, actually pretty mild overall. Still holding above the 20 and 50. And once again, all-time highs sitting right below us. But a lack of follow-through on this breakout of all-time highs. We did close above previous all-time highs, but there hasn't been a strong push. So at this point, we are at risk as a potential maybe double top, also leaving potentially some momentum longs trapped up here, which can facilitate a larger sell-off. XLY is going to be our consumer discretionaries. We'll draw, once again, all-time highs. Lots of consolidation formed here before making the move higher. As we're starting to sell, we want to, once again, look for this as another balance zone, another area for the market to head towards on the sell-off, and then ultimately decide, are you going to stay here and go higher? Are you going to stay here and go lower? Are you going to stay here for a period of time and do nothing? But on the downside, this is a target, and on the upside, once we get here, we'll see which way they choose to move. We'll try not to be too predictive until they get there. Healthcare, very notable strong day yesterday. One of our stronger sectors amidst some of the selling in the markets. We recently had an all-time high breakout, and this was led mostly by stocks like UNH, which are a big component of the Dow. They reported earnings. The earnings were very good, and the market treated them well with a breakout to all-time highs. So healthcare at all-time highs, holding in this strong pattern to the upside. I think here this could even go potentially a bit higher before the market eventually pulls this sector down with it. Industrials, I'll just go ahead and say similar idea. Every time we've come to the 20, we've made new all-time highs. So we're just going range high to range low, pull back, breakout, double this range, target. Once you hit it, pull back, look for the recent high to become support. So same idea, even a back test of this previous all-time high acted as a bounce point before we got to our recent all-time high. So, you know, the cycle continues in industrials until this cycle breaks. This needs to be sort of the thesis moving forward. With the notable exception that the weekly is a bit extended, but that's going to be true in most areas of the market and hasn't really provided any sort of cautionary tale to the downside as of yet. So we have structure here. We want to use that structure on the pull downs and then also facilitate those to the upside if they hold as support. Utilities close to all-time highs, but not at them. Or actually, I'm sorry, close to relative highs, but not at them yet. Brian has mentioned this in his swing trade videos. It's quite odd to see utilities this strong in a market this bullish, but overall, this sector has been grinding higher, multiple trend days to the upside, and doesn't really show any signs of stopping. So as we are analyzing other strong sectors, we want to treat utilities with a technical overview similar to other sectors. Pullbacks are looking to be bought. Those pullbacks are coming to areas of support in the past or areas of resistance that were broken. And when we get those pullbacks, we will look to define risk and see if we can get upside momentum to break recent highs. And then I'll quickly go over the rest. Staples, recent all-time high, and then some sort of reversal structure. Not a lot of follow-through as of yet, but we do have this flat top area that needs to hold before we can really see significant selling, and that would come back to the range low of this recent move. So we have a range with an ascending triangle, flat top, breakout, and then a back test so far. Materials holding all-time highs. I kind of see this one similar to some of the industrial strength, and materials have shown a lot of buying the dip mentality inside of the 20 moving average being the support zone. Energy choppy, hasn't really moved from this retracement. We were looking at crude as a potential breakout, but overall energy hasn't really shown us the potential to the upside yet. And outside of the smaller industry ETFs, we'll look at communications. Must have clicked on something. My platform froze, it looked like. Okay, well, I can't do anything else from here, so. Oh, there it is. I found the error. Sorry. All right. Communications near all-time highs. Notable lower high created from Friday and yesterday's session. We have not really broken through the recent one, so we are trapped in a range. This is going to be your Facebooks and your Googles holding some of the weight inside of this sector. So as the market consolidates, look for areas of support, look for areas of interest to consider, and ultimately remain vigilant to the fact that this market is still in a bullish context. A lot of dips are going to be bought as we start to pull down, and we will get notable reactions as volatility increases. The range of our intraday candles may also increase with that volatility. So you may dictate either wider stops to define your risk, or even set more aggressive targets because the range expansion is going to occur with volatility increasing. So with that said, I'm Jared. This is Engineering the Markets. Stay vigilant as we start to come down into our most recent all-time high. As we start to pull back, look for the next opportunity to once again short on the way down or to get long on the way back up. So take it easy and trade safe. Also, stay tuned for pre-market prep.
All right, all right, all right, all right. How's that for an How's that for an echo? Hold on a sec. There we go. Let's try that. Oh my goodness. What a morning, everybody. Good morning, Norm.
Hey, good morning, buddy. How you doing, Peter?
Oh man, I'm telling you, having a rough one. I'm still trying to work through some technical challenges here, so bear with us, everybody. My apologies. I have some licensing issues that I can't fix while live. So, anyways, we're going to kludge some stuff together for all our friends in the room. I know you're not seeing anything yet. I'm still working on it. Actually, I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to give you a unique feed today. My goodness, this is...
Yeah, sorry about the setup here. Carlos is out sick. He was not feeling well last night. He did the onboarding anyway.
You know what?
This morning it was just too much, so he went back to bed.
Yeah, he really pushed through on that because I know he was not feeling well at all, and I appreciate the fact that he did that because he even during the pre-market yesterday, you could tell he was stuffed up and not feeling too hot. So, all right, just getting in here and adding some rows so we can get set. Maybe what we'll do here is, and my apologies, guys, I'm working on the fly here, which means that everything's not going to be as pretty as it normally is because Carlos is a master and he's got it all down. So, however, we will try and get through our regularly scheduled activities. Why don't we start with maybe Norm, if you can talk to us about the overall markets. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at the markets and see after yesterday we had a little bit of a downturn. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, continuing, but I mean we've been on a pretty straight up trajectory really for the last what is it, 4 weeks? I mean barely any red days in there, so not surprised to see this little pullback for a couple of days. Overall, there's no news expected today, tomorrow. There wasn't any yesterday. Fed is in their kind of they're in their blackout period of any of them speaking and a lack of information coming out because they've got their meeting next week. So nothing there, nothing too exciting going on. We'll see some underlying currents in some of the stocks we're going to talk about this morning with, for instance, they've disappeared, but we had weed stocks on, kind of merger info and stuff that was on here and since dropped off. Tobacco, U.S. government might limit the amount of nicotine in cigarettes to a degree that isn't addictive, which obviously is not, and you're getting weird pop-ups, is not addictive, which obviously is not real good for their product, and some other things in here. So I guess let's just get it started when you get a chance.
All right, just gonna check everybody on YouTube. Hopefully you can hear us and see it. You're not seeing exactly the same feed in the room because I unfortunately can't display both, but I'm trying to duplicate it in 2 places. So be in my own. What are the editor there? What's the guy in the... Anyways, I'm trying to be my own video choreographer here. All right. Let's get back to this and we'll see what's happening in the markets. So, in the room, guys, my apologies. I'm not able to show you the gappers list at the same time as what we'll be looking at. So, I'll do my best to recreate the gappers list over here with all the stuff that we're going to take a look at. So let's start there, and I'll start with the stuff that's gapping up. It's a short list. Fortunately, we're not like we were before in the markets where we had like 800 million things here, so we should be able to get to things today. All right, let's start with KSU. KSU, so none of these are low floats, so that's good. Almost 1 million shares today. I really don't like the pre-market. I've never heard of this thing. What the heck is KSU? Kansas City.
Kansas Southern. It's a railroad. It is being acquired cash and stock by Canadian Railroad, and so you've got a few in that sector that are up on that news.
Oh, interesting. All right, a railroad acquisition. That doesn't happen very often. All right, well, I'm not seeing anything awesome.
Since it's not 1892, it's cash and stock, but since it's not 1892, I don't know that I'd. These don't usually trade very well.
All right, so if the Rockefellers were out here trading, then we'd worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, let me delete it. FSR we have seen for a little while. Fisker is back. The pre-market actually doesn't look that bad. Wow, 1.8 million shares. So got some news going on today, Norm?
Yeah, they got an upgrade out of B of A. I think they put a $31 price target on it.
Huh. Surprised that an upgrade would be moving this so significantly, 8%. Normally it doesn't have such an impact, but especially with the volume, that's a lot of volume for Fisker pre-market. I'm going to keep this on because we'll see what happens with that. Now, EDU we've seen before. I don't know that I've ever traded this. Pre-market.
This is a questionable Chinese company that I steer clear of.
Yeah, it looks terrible. We're just over 100,000 shares today, which is why it appeared on the list. I am getting rid of it. Don't like it at all. RLX also looks terrible pre-market. Yeah, I'm not seeing
Chinese questionable tobacco company. Don't see any news here specifically, so I don't know if that's on that U.S. government news I was talking about. And people thinking in China they'll never do that, or what? Maybe there's something else, but
yeah, I don't see anything to attract me to this so far, so I'm going to get rid of that as well. MVIS, what is Microvision? Microvision.
Didn't see any news on Mavis either, which is my nickname for this one.
Let me see if I can just make the size. There you go. Now maybe you guys can see my watch list a little bit better. All right. Yeah, again, pre-market doesn't look great on this. So look, I'm just going to delete everything. I might have nothing on the list. All right. And APHA was also on. Oh, it's dropped off the list.
You always got AMD on the list, Peter.
Yeah, I always have AMD on the list. Afria was on the list when I put it together. I see it's dropped below 2% gap up, which means it's fallen off. Pre-market looks awful as well, so nothing going on there. What else? Tilray, the pot stocks seem to be jumping up and down on my list here as they're hovering around 2%.
Yeah, it's on their merger stuff and news on that, so.
I noticed that CP Rail, so this would be the acquirer, right, that just jumped on my list here? They're the ones.
It's either CN or CP, but CN and CP were both going after KSU. I think it was CP that gets it.
Okay. Now, normally the acquirer sees a little bit of a dip, as we're seeing this morning. They're actually up, so I don't know what that means. I guess people like the prospect.
I think it's a reduction. Yeah, I think it's reduction of competition partially.
Well, again, I'm not
because even the weird thing, like you said, the acquirer is up, the acquiree is up, and also the person bidding against this company to get it is up as well. So my guess is the reduction of competition is pulling all of them.
I feel like we're playing Monopoly here, right? It's like you said, back in the day. All right, well, I'm not going to look at the railways. I don't like anything that I'm looking at there. So the only thing I kept out of all of that on the gap up so far is Fisker, FSR. So let's look at the gap down list. And I said I'll have to recreate it for you guys in the room. So give me a sec here, and we'll start with these. We'll start with SNDX. Pre-market doesn't look fantastic, but while we're doing that, I'll just try and get the rest of the list on here. Is there any news on that that's of note?
Which one?
SNDX.
This one just popped up, and do not. I put a warning in here earlier. This thing is horrendous. The spread when I looked at it was $2 for a $16 stock. It's now just shy of $1. Very, very thinly traded. delete.
Yeah, 82 cents, as you said, on a $17 stock. That is terrible. So,
and I mean, as long as we've been talking about it here, there hasn't been a single transaction. There hasn't been a transaction in over 2 minutes. 849.39 is the last one I see.
So pretty much all the volume came on this one candle that happened at 8:24. So yeah, anyways, we've seen enough. Get rid of it. All right, so a couple that we do look at, Futu or FU2U, Norm.
No, F you to you too. Yeah, they've got a proposed secondary coming out.
Really? Well, I guess they might as well take advantage with their price, but it's, well, they've been hovering up here for a while since the beginning of the year. I know that, interestingly, this is one that John has been putting on his list for high of day breaks. So right now, pre-market, it doesn't look great, frankly, but we might set some levels on it, so I'll leave it here. SPCE, so Virgin Galactic, is on our list. It's really been on a downtrend, as you can see by the daily here. Pre-market is pretty flat, though. I'll keep it on my list. I don't know if there's any new news, or is this still just a hangover from some of Branson's selling.
From Sir Richard Branson selling his shares.
Yeah. I mean, it's never good when the founder and owner says, you know what, maybe time for me to lighten the load a little bit.
It is not good.
GOEV. All right, well, what is it? Canoe Inc.? What the heck? Anyways, I know I've seen this ticker before. I don't think I've ever traded it. What are we looking at shares here? 230,000 shares so far. I'm not seeing it move much. Ugh.
I'm not seeing much there either, man.
Yeah, I don't like it. So we seem to have a lot of the EV companies. So Nikola is the next one on here, NKLA. Pre-market also looks pretty light so far. Is this just a general gap down, I guess, on overall news?
Seems to be.
Yeah, weird. Okay. Now, yesterday afternoon, we saw, I still want to call them Philip Morris, but they're Altria Group officially here. MO is the ticker symbol. Gap down when there was some Fed, I guess it was a rumor. Actually, Norm, you might know. Was there actually any validity? The rumor was that they were going to implement some change to cigarette regulations and eliminate menthol cigarettes, and it dropped significantly around, I can't remember, sometime mid-afternoon.
Well, it's not just that, buddy.
Okay.
Because so down here, and I don't know exactly what happened with it, but there was regulation passed with flavored, cigarillos or whatever, and menthol cigarettes was part of that a few years ago. Those were supposed to not be available anymore, but they're still out there. So I don't know what happened. I know menthol was pulled from that because they didn't feel as if they were the same, and there was a bunch of outrage over that. They're proposing the FDA to regulate the amount of nicotine in a cigarette to be so low that it wouldn't be addictive. So if all cigarettes on the market had no addictive properties and not enough nicotine in them to be addictive, why smoke? Why would these companies exist at all?
It's like regulating all.
So it's not for the perfume qualities of it, right? So I mean, nobody wants to smell like that, especially for no reason.
Wow. Yeah, anyways, it blows my mind how we try and regulate certain things and allow other things to happen unfettered. Anyways, but yes, to your point, it seems a little ridiculous. I mean, if we've decided that we just want to make them illegal, goddammit, and just be done with it. In the meantime, we're legalizing pot and going the other way. Anyways, whatever. All right. Well, look, from a trading perspective, it might give some opportunity. MO, I've found difficult to trade. I know I have traded in the past, but on rare occasion. But I'll keep it here because it actually looks good this morning. If you look at the significance of the size of the candle from yesterday and then from today, we're looking to, how's that for a giant arrow? Anyways, you can see down here,
where?
Yeah.
I can't find your arrow.
You're not sure you can't find the arrow? Hold on here. How about that? Does that help? Anyways, could you make it flash? Today, so I'll keep it on the list. He thinks I'm compensating for something. All right. CLNE, which is the next one I'd picked up. Clean energy. Pre-market does not look great on this. Unless there's some exciting news, I'd probably delete this one from my list.
I think this is just general EVs are down, and then they'd had that drop yesterday, and just a little follow through on it.
Yeah, actually, yesterday on the
I
daily,
mean,
sorry.
that's a pretty miserable candle if you own this stock. If you bought this and you get this 20% plus pop, and it essentially sells it all off
Yeah, well,
all day long from open to close.
that's what I was about to comment on. If you look at the you look at this candle from yesterday. Oh my God, what's my arrow like doing? This candle from now I forget it. It gapped up. You've probably been pretty excited, and then it sold it all off. Big red candle yesterday. So today maybe we'll get some action on it. I don't know. I mean, I'll leave it.
Not
to set
looking
some
great
levels,
though.
but yeah, I don't see anything great on it so far. UAL is the next one on my list here. I'm surprised United is on the list without the other airlines. Is there something specific about
Well,
United?
they had earnings last night, and they missed on revenues. Specifically, was part of the issue. They did say that they believe they'll be back to profitability, I think, in the second half of this year. Strong, vacation, tourist demand, business demand, where they actually make their money, is still down a ton. So, got some issues there. Obviously, these airlines. AAL, we got a little bit further down the list trading on that too. They've run up a lot since their bottom, so a little bit of a pullback isn't unexpected on that news.
Yeah, let me add AAL in here. We'll take a look at that as well. Yeah, they've been selling off the last few days, so maybe we'll set some levels on it. We'll see what's happening. BTI. Oh, so this is another tobacco company. All right, so same story as MO, I assume. Wow, I do not like this daily chart. Look at the gaps between it. This must be a dual traded. I assume it is. It looks terrible, anyways.
What's that?
BTI.
Well, it's British American Tobacco. It's a foreign listed company, so it trades terribly.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? If you're gonna watch one in this sector, you might as well watch MO. It's gonna trade much better than BTI.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna delete it. Mara moving sectors here is. Also down a little bit today. Pre-market doesn't look fantastic. What have we got so far? 400,000 shares. It can often be a steady trader, at least the last few weeks. So maybe we'll set some levels and we'll see what's going on. And the last I have here is F-Cell. Fuel Cell Energy. Again, pre-market looks bad on this. I don't see anything particularly exciting about F-Cell, again, unless there's news. This doesn't look so good pre-market. So
they got a rating initiation out of Wells Fargo, underweight $9, so that's pulling them a little bit.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll set some level in case people like it. People like F-Cell. I like AMD, but this morning there is nothing to write home about on AMD. It does not look that happy. It's in fact
everything looks pretty terrible this morning, doesn't it, Peter?
There's not.
I don't mean to interrupt you about the love of your life there, but I'm not seeing anything that looks fantastic.
No, it's it could be one of those mornings where we just sit and wait and see what happens. How about in the room or on YouTube? Or maybe I should ask you first, Norm, anything that you would want to add to the list that we should be checking out?
My pillow.
All right, well, you can always go back to bed.
Go back to bed.
I see in the room a couple of recommendations here. So starting with Apple. Apple's actually been trading pretty good the last couple of weeks. Now, the last few days, if you look at the daily chart, I mean, it's been pretty flat. Let me clear some levels here. It's hard to see. But it's been pretty flat. But I found the trading not bad on it, actually. So Apple might be worth taking a look at. So I'll leave it there to set some new levels on it. And then I've got Baidu. As well, again, daily looks pretty flat. My pre-market doesn't look good either, so I'm not sure if somebody's seeing something exciting on it, but I don't see anything particularly unique. On YouTube, somebody's saying we should look at NNOX, and then I see INO. Let's check those two out. So NNOX, wow, I don't see anything on this one so far today. Only 19,000 shares. Daily's looking relatively flat. Maybe it'll pick up when the market opens, but nothing I like there. And then INO, pretty much the same story. Look at that flat daily pre-market, 30,000 shares. Again, those are ones that only if they sort of start to run in after the open that I would bother taking a look at. Being that we're running a little bit behind here today, why don't I suggest we get to announcements? And, hold on a sec. As Peter clicks on the wrong thing, we'll try and get to some announcements here. We'll do this. Oh. All right. Take it away, Norm.
Can you go back one slide, bud?
I didn't. Oh, yeah, I can here for you. Hold on a sec.
There we go.
All right. Okay,
All right. Hey, it's Peter Day. He starts the day early. He's going to end it late. And he's moving 50 tons of dirt around his yard in between while trading. It's amazing, my man Peter. Tonight, he's going to be talking about actively trading a single ticker. Well, Peter does trade more than just a single ticker. Everybody knows his love for AMD. So he's going to be talking about, the pros and cons of doing that, how that works. That's tonight at 8 p.m. And then next week, we are going to be having Eamon's Parabolic Reversals Part 2 webinar Tuesday at 5 p.m. because of his time zone. Tomorrow night, next slide, Peter. We're going to have Nada, our mindfulness expert, talking about being true to yourself, reevaluating your judgments, and, use mindfulness to help you center as a trader and become better. Is it Eamon say May 4th? Maybe it is. I will make sure that's correct tomorrow. Then next week, Dr. Kat's Town Hall, 8 p.m. Wednesday. We'll take two traders. They'll kind of have a group discussion between him and the two traders for the room. Had a lot of great feedback on that format. All right. If you want to participate in the member trade of the day, trade of the week, take a screenshot of your best trade, of course, with entries and exits, and then any commentary you can give on the trade itself to describe the strategy setup and how it worked out. Post it on Twitter, tagging at Bearable Traders, at Mike_BBT, and at NormBBT. Also use hashtags BBT Family, Day Trading, and Stock Market. We'll pick the winner every day and announce it on Twitter. All the trades of the day are eligible for Trade of the Week, which is voted on by the team over the weekend and announced on Monday on Twitter. All right. And if you are watching on YouTube, haven't been in the chat, use the promo code PREMARKET24. That'll get you a discount off the intro membership. It's the 7-day test drive, 7 calendar days, 5 trading days, does not auto renew or turn into any other kind of membership. And it also gives you access to that onboarding class that we do every Monday night live that Carlos powered through last night at 8 p.m. Also, the spring promotion is still available. If you'd like to become an annual Leap member, use the promo code SPRING40 to get 40% off.
All right. Thank you, Norm. Let me try and get my screens back here. Here we go.
And guys, I know, so Matthew over on YouTube is saying it's hard to see your watch list. And yes, Peter had to fill in at the last moment for Carlos. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that. Maybe make the fonts, I don't know, make them a little bigger or something, or bold them. We'll try to fix that for you. You're kind of lucky. There you go. That should be way more visible. I will say you're kind of lucky because they all stink right now.
They all stink. All right, couple that people were mentioning that I'll just take a look at. I saw Coke. Now, Coke had earnings yesterday, and they did have a move. So far, pre-market, I'm not seeing any indication that there's going to be continued movement. Coke can sometimes, it is a NYSE stock, which means that pre-market, it doesn't often move a lot. And therefore, we could get some movement now that the like once the market opens. But Coke's one of those maybe I'll watch once it opens, but I don't like it most days, to be honest. So we'll just see what happens with it. There was one other that I saw mentioned in the room that somebody's asking us to look at, and I lost it. 1 second. Neo. Oh, good old Neo. All right, let's take a peek at Neo for this morning. What's Neo up to? It usually has some volume pre-market. Actually, it's low volume for Neo, only a little under 600,000 shares. It's funny, hey, look at Neo on the daily. It's pretty flat. Hasn't been moving a lot, but we know that during the day you can actually get some decent moves. So with a lot of the other EVs moving this morning, maybe a Neo will hit some areas. We'll set some levels on it, and we'll see what happens. I've got a lot of stuff on the list, but as we said, nothing that we particularly love. I'm going to have to go fast to set levels. One last thing I just want to do before we do that. There was a question I saw in the room, and I think the question, if I interpreting it right, was, it was Van City asking, do you have to be a pro to post? And when you say post, I assume for the trade of the day. Our only ask is that you be trading live, right? So not sim trades, but live trades. But if you're trading in a live account, no matter your level of proficiency, absolutely, please submit them, post them onto Twitter. We'd love to see them, and you will absolutely be considered for the trade of the day. Okay, so with that, why don't I go back up to the list to the one thing that was actually on our gappers that is moving up, and I'm just double checking our gappers. All right, FSR. So we actually have over 2 million shares traded so far. And wow, this daily though is, so let me just, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the size of our 1 minute and expand the size of the daily. And I'm going to try and set some new lines. What would I set with this thing moving up? Well, we've got a level here where it found some support previously. Certainly here, I would say around 1450. I'm definitely going to be watching it to see if that becomes resistance as this thing moves up, assuming that we even get up that high. The next area that makes any sense to me is up here around 1580. So those are levels to watch, but frankly, that's going to be a big move. Like, it has to double what its gap so far to get up that high. So we'll see what happens. FSR, we may be dealing with a lot of intraday activity. So then, which means that I'll be looking at this high of pre-market. You can see right here. The high of pre-market was around 1377. So I'm going to set a level here, 1375-ish. Certainly worth watching to see if and when we get back to that level, and that'll happen. Whoops, and I accidentally set another level here. We'll move this one down. 25 bucks. All right. Futu is the next one. Let's take a look here. I've got a daily level that I'd set previously at 171.50. You can see that on my chart, and I actually like that level still, so that's something that I will absolutely keep an eye on if we get up there. It is gapping that down, though, after a big day yesterday. Now, this is setting up where we may have an inside day, meaning that the price action for today may be within the highs and lows of yesterday. Look at where it's sitting, right in the middle of that range, so we'll see. So I'll be primarily looking at this candle from yesterday, right? And that's automatically marked on my chart with yesterday's high and yesterday's low. So if we break out of that, then we could have an exciting day on Futu. Otherwise, we may end up with an inside day. So we'll see what happens. SPCE, it's moving down. I mean, we are lower than we were yesterday and lower than we've been for a while. So I've got to go back here to last year. Let me just expand the chart for last year. So this is, you can see the current price at 2060. Where's some levels that I can set around here? Well, we had a gap down here, so I'm definitely going to mind that gap here. That's 18 bucks if we get that low. We also had a level that would seem to be providing some support right around here, because I can see that this day back in October the 13th hit a low of 1992, and then on November the 16th, 1984. So I'm going to set a level here around, 1990, and we'll watch SPCE to see if it gets down that low, and if that provides some support. Maybe it'll bounce there again. If not, it might just punch through. We'll see what happens. GOEV is down below the lows. Wow, we are... Is this like all-time low? Wow, okay, we are at all-time lows at GOEV, so that means that we have no levels to set here, so we just have to watch and see what happens. Basically, the low of pre-market is the thing to watch, and we'll see what happens. NKLA, are we in the same situation? Look at this, current price at $9.99, and this is all-time lows on Nikola as well, so this has been selling off quite a bit. So again, we'll just watch this low of pre-market at $9.50, and see what happens from there. MO, Philip Morris, we talked about. I've got some previous levels set. Maybe I'll just keep those. Obviously, I'd looked at this in the past. 44.93 is a level here. 43.94 you can see, and then 42.38. So something to watch right now. I'll also mark the high here at 45.60-ish, where we sort of maybe we'll see if that level that was resistance before provides support as MO continues its move down. CLNE, well, we have the highs and lows of the previous few days, and I will set a level here at 10.17. That's about it for CLNE. UAL, well, I've got some previous levels. Let me just clear everything that I'd had. I'm going to set a level here at, what is the low of this candle, at 52.03. That sounds like a good place for a level. Let me set that specifically, 52.03. And then after that, wow, I don't see any. Actually, I sort of like this area. I'm going to too close together, 51.28. We'll see what happens if UAL actually drops and gets below that. Although the news sounded good on it, it's now gapping down. So we'll see what happens with it. AAL also moving down a little bit pre-market. Actually, if we break significantly through here, I would watch 20 as a whole dollar level, and then below that, certainly this area at 1863. I don't know. AAL doesn't typically move that much, but oops, that should be 1863. We'll see what actually happens if we get there. All right, Mara has been a good mover. We're obviously on a downtrend. You can see over the last week or so. Mara, I'll set a level here at 1950s to keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens. More than that, frankly, the high and low of yesterday were still within the bounds of that, so I'll keep an eye there. All right, F-Cell is the last of what was on our gappers list, and then I'll do a couple off of the ones that you guys recommended. Specifically here on F-Cell, if this thing moves up, 1131, 1130-ish is a level. I'll set a level there to keep an eye on. Went in 1123. Let me move that to 1130. And then on the low side, look, I actually have this 200 moving average on the daily that I'll keep an eye on, because if it gets through that, then I don't really see a next obvious level except for, way down here at $6. 650. That's going to be sketchy if it gets there. All right, Apple, you guys asked to take a look at. Been moving sideways. If it can break out of the high here, so yesterday's high is the primary thing that I'll keep an eye on. If it gets above that, then we definitely have a consolidation at 137. We'll see. I said Apple's been moving not bad, but not in a huge range, right? It's been moving in a relatively small range. So we'll see what happens with that. And then we've got Baidu. Well, Baidu, I'll just set this level down here at 173.95. And last but not least, guys, I'll just do Coca-Cola. Coke, I will only be interested, frankly, if it starts to move up round 55. 54.93 you can see is the high of this day back here, well, on the last day of 2020. So we'll see if if Coke has a movement, but I'm not setting high hopes. All right, we've pretty much run up to our time limit. I want to thank Norm for having to dance with me here, as we miss Carlos a lot when he's not here, because he has got this thing nailed down. And I hope he's feeling better. I said he was a trooper pushing through yesterday, because you could tell he was not feeling good. But hopefully he feels better for tomorrow, for my sake and for his. So
No. And all the thanks to you, because you hopped on here at about an hour and a half ago and agreed to come do the morning show with us. So no, thank you very much. And you've got a long day ahead. So thank you, Peter.
No problem. Well, my pleasure, guys. Have a great day. I hope your trading day is good. As we were saying, right? I don't see a lot that's really fantastic, so be careful. Don't feel pressured that you have to take a trade off the open. If you're not seeing your setup, wait. Opportunities always happen. They may not be there immediately when the market's open, and that's okay, right? Wait for your setup, wait for your opportunity, and have a good day. As Carlos always says, you don't want to spend the rest of the day regretting some impulsive actions. So trade smart. We'll see you guys again tomorrow morning for the pre-market show. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much.
Take care, guys. Trade safe.